Hello everybody, the Nameless Narcissist here once again. Simple man diagnosed with NPD, giving you the facts on narcissistic personality disorder and things that go on in my head. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, but keep in mind, I am no clinician, so I can only speak to my own experiences. Alright, anyway, so there's a study I found a while ago that I really liked. It was a good meta-study of all the information about NPD you could ever honestly want. And what I wanted to touch on in this, though, was some of the case vendettas that they had about NPD. So these are diagnosed people who are in treatment, and this is basically describing the range of functioning and the different presentations they can have. So these aren't people that are like, oh, like anecdotal, oh, this is my narcissist. It's, no, this is people who are diagnosed and are in treatment. So I'm going to take off my glasses so you guys don't see the reflection in them, so be honored for that. Anyways, I'm going to read off these case vendettas and tell you my takeaways. Miss B, a 24-year-old research assistant in, oh, by the way, this is case vendetta 1, striving for perfection and facing despair. Miss B, a 24-year-old research assistant in biotechnology, began treatment after her second near-lethal suicide attempt. She described herself to the therapist as the top achiever in her lab, very meticulous and determined to do research projects according to optimal scientific standards in order to reach reliable results. However, despite evidence of her competence, Miss B struggled with horrific fear of making mistakes. Her internal requirements for absolute perfection, combined with extremely harsh self-criticism, caused constant doubts that her work would not meet the standards that she had set for herself. She spent a lot of time studying and preparing to make sure that her supervisor, whom she admired for his exceptional skills and reputation, acknowledged her and supported her plans for a career in the field. She described recurrent episodes of getting trapped inside herself on a roller coaster of aspirations and ambitions, demands, self-criticism, self-hatred, doubts, and fear, especially when facing new tasks and projects. Those times, she lost her ability to think clearly and concentrate and began to think about suicide. Usually, she managed these situations by excessive alcohol consumption. That is a theme you're going to see throughout these case vignettes. But she has also begun to come in late to work and even cancel work. On 2 occasions, she felt such fear of losing her confidence and hence her reputation in the lab and appreciating from her supervisor that she saw ending her life as the only way out. Miss B did not suffer from a major depressive disorder. Nevertheless, she had intermittent mood fluctuations that coincided with rapid shifts in her self-regulation, i.e. her sense of agency, self-esteem, and self-judgment. So this is really cool because you get to see how this perfectionism actually manifests in NPD. I feel like we do not talk enough about the anxiety that surrounds it. The fact that if I don't live up to my unrealistic expectations, that I hate myself, I'm constantly berating myself for not being good enough. Or with the quote I always use is, you're so stupid, why did you do that? Or why didn't you do that? You're better than this. You know, the grandiosity without any sort of compassion. This perfectionism isn't driven by, oh, I'm so good that my work should be perfect or is perfect. It's this needs to be perfect or I am a failure. And on the conversely, when you do live up to it, it's, you know, that grandiosity. It's like, oh yeah, I am that good and stuff like that. Also, I want to point out how good her, like, because, you know, people are like, oh, narcissists have very poor insight and self-awareness, which, you know, maybe I think all egocentric disorders do. But this person had very good insight. I mean, obviously, she didn't know that she had NPD, but she had very good insight into, like she says, she described recurrent episodes of getting trapped inside herself on a roller coaster of aspirations, ambitions, demands, self-criticism, self-hatred, doubts, and fear. So she had a very good idea of what her actual issues were, even if she didn't exactly know what the issue was. I relate to that a lot, like, especially like canceling work and stuff like that. Like, I literally used to do that in my last job, where I would feel so humiliated, or like I was so afraid of not living up to my expectations, I would skip work. I would, like, if I got the slightest amount of feeling ashamed or humiliated at work, I'd literally leave and just hide in my room because I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the self-hate. And I'd just be thinking about it for like days. I still do that. Like, just think about these horrible things for days. Anyways, case vignette 2, seeking competition but finding stagnation. The word stagnation in itself made me cringe. Ooh. So I have never, stagnation I think is the thing I am most afraid of. If I'm not constantly working towards something, I feel like I'm going nowhere. I feel like I'm going to waste my life, like I'm disgusting. I hate it. Anyways, but Mr. M, a successful financial investor in his early 50s, began psychotherapy after facing an ultimatum from his wife of 30 years who had threatened to leave him if he did not seek treatment and change his attitudes and behaviors. Mr. M described himself as a committed, goal-oriented, and success-focused man, but one also in need of many parallel, intense activity tracks, including competitive sailing and extramarital affairs. I do love how they're like, he needs intense activities to do, and he starts with like parasailing and affairs. So to balance out what he described as a deep internal darkness, they had suffered from since early childhood. Another thing to point out there that I don't think is touched enough, this innate sense of badness that I always feel like I'm just inherently a bad person, and like I would call it internal darkness. Like I think I mentioned this before, how I would like lie about bad things I did just so like, because it felt like people weren't seeing me if they didn't think I was a bad person. If they thought I was a good person, I was tricking them. They didn't actually know me. But then by lying to them, and this is so ironic, but by lying to them and trying to prove them I am a bad person, it felt like they actually knew me a lot better. I would call it an internal darkness. I think honestly that might be better than the term emptiness for me. An internal dark, like it's way more edgy, but I think that's more accurate to describe that sensation, just that inherent feeling of bad. And there's an emptiness there, but that might be a little bit yeah, they're kind of conflated. Anyways, easily irritated by others' inconsistency and imprecision, he described himself as distant, unempathetic, and self-preoccupied. But most importantly, he struggled with a sense of emptiness and frustration, never reaching a satisfaction and sense of accomplishment that he so intensely desired. Yet it's a never-ending goalpost. Never ending. No matter what we do, it's never good enough. I mentioned Lyndon B. Johnson, how he was probably a pathological narcissist, and even being the president of the United States, arguably one of the most powerful people in the world at that time, and that wasn't good enough for him. I mean, and you can see that, and this isn't a great example, you can see this with my social media. I have probably more followers on TikTok or subscribers on YouTube than anybody in my personal life will ever have. Okay, I just realized I immediately went to the comparative thinking, but whatever. And hierarchical thinking. But I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm so proud of myself that I managed to accomplish this. I'm thinking, why am I not higher yet? Why am I on 10K on YouTube? Why am I not on 100K on TikTok? Why am I only at 1,000 something on Instagram? Am I not good enough? Like, blah, blah, blah. And there's a little bit of entitlement there too. It's like, I should have that. I would literally say especially early on my YouTube, it's like, if the algorithm just showed my videos to everybody, I would be fucking famous. Everybody would love it. But yeah, that's not exactly a representation of reality. He felt guilty for not being a good husband, and although he loved his children and adored his grandchildren, he felt distant, struggled with urges to leave. Oh my God, yes. Experienced a sense of deeper diffuse guilt, as he could not deserve or could not embrace the fact that he indeed meant something and contributed both his family and company. Oh my, this guy fucks me up. I don't know if it's just because he's like successful that I feel the need to relate to him so much, but oh my God, these things, like that guilt, I don't think it's guilt, but I think it's more shame. He may have been misidentifying that in my opinion. But like that shame over not being like good enough for people and feeling like people will be like, oh my God, like you're such a good person, you mean something to me, you do so much for it. Just feels fake. I don't know what it is. Like not being able to accept it is such a good way to phrase it, because it's not even like they're lying to me. It is like, I just can't, I don't know how to describe it. I really don't. I need to think about how to put that into words, but not being able to embrace that, fuck. And the urges to leave, oh my God, no matter how much I care about somebody, there's always this like deeper urge to like flee and stuff like that. He felt trapped, unable to pursue what he really wanted in life, and asked the therapist if there indeed was any help for this condition. Fuck, that last part. Ooh, that last part also got me. Yeah, because I found myself like asking that quite a few times, but both to myself and the therapist, like, is there a cure for this? Or am I just going to be trapped like this, trapped in this prison of my own self-absorption? Take a guess on what the answer was. Fuck, that one's so relatable. You can also see in this too, like the high levels of introspection and awareness about their condition. I think the following four are a little bit less aware of their issues like that. But again, it goes to show that even with egosyntonic disorders and even with narcissism in general, people can have very good self-awareness and be very articulate about their issues. Because both of them, they knew what their issues were, and they didn't know that it was NPD or really the causes of them, but they knew what their issues were. Let's see, number three. Number three I find really interesting. It's kind of what I fear I'm going to turn into one day. Here's a cool little snippet right here, since alcoholism is going to be prevalent in almost all of these. 24% to 64% of NPD patients meet criteria for any substance abuse disorder. Isn't that fun? Oh my God. Here, piano for case vignette 3. Piano for 4 hands one more time. In his youth, Mr. A, now an aging movie music composer, was spoiled by local recognition and success. Little was now left from his past grandeur. His job had come to a deadlock. His wife had died in a car accident, and his body was aging and weak. Oblivious to his collapsing life, he began drinking heavily to blur the distinction between sad reality and his idyllic memory of his past, where he could be with his wife again, and they could play the piano together. He came to treatment upon the urges of his worried children. See, it's ones like this I'm like, I really wish they would like say what the actual, one of them says at the ending, but most of them don't. This one is actually one I fear a lot, because I get it, like being caught up in in this nostalgia of your past, and like the thing is, it's like you're never actually living in that moment, right? You're never living on I'm on top of the world. It's always, oh man, the past was so much better, and I've been like that since as long as I can remember. I've always been like, yep, the past was so much greater than what's going on now. I would do anything to go back there. I feel like that's part of the human condition, but obviously, given that he has to drink heavily, blur the distinction, which also relatable, you can see how it's a little bit more intense there. Case unit 4, Sorrows of a Vitero Surgeon. Also, these, like, the titles of these case studies are so dramatic, but I love it. Dr. B, a medical student, spent many hours dedicated to his career. Little did his family and colleagues know that he was hiding behind the external appearance of a promising, though slightly haughty, trainee. Driven to become the best, he developed a habit of drinking daily at work 2 or 3 bottles of wine to fend off anxiety about his evaluation. Oh my God. I mean, I don't drink to do that, but like that constant like worry that what people are going to think of you, what your boss is going to think of you, partners, friends. That's why I drink so much in social settings, is because I just don't want to be worrying about that. I just want to be able to be charming, go out there, impress everybody. He felt that he must be a real genius if he could perform complicated surgeries while intoxicated. Like, that's not funny, right? But okay, it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of funny. I mean, it's scary, but also kind of funny. And it's really interesting how narcissists can rationalize some of these really bad behaviors and turn around and something to be grandiose about. Like, I mean, hell, you could, like, when I used to pursue women that were in relationships, I was like, well, I mean, I would rationalize one being like, well, if it wasn't me, they're gonna break up anyway. And then also, I must be a real fucking catch if I can charm these people and seduce them and stuff like that. Really interesting. He thinking of himself as an exceptional human being. He believed that his drinking was excusable, if not commendable, that common rules did not apply to him. See, that's something that's really interesting for me, because I read that and my immediate thought was not, oh, he believed common rules did not apply to him. And it really made me reflect on how many rules I do, because I never consciously think, man, I'm above these rules. It is like this subconscious like indifference towards the rules, and maybe that's some of my ASPD tricks. But like, it's recontextualized some things. I mean, when I like just break rules and not care, like it is me thinking I'm above them. It's like, this rule is stupid. I don't care about this rule. Like, this rule shouldn't exist. But I can see how it'd be reframed, something like that. And his surgeries were better and his scientific writing more innovative compared to that of others. Well, maybe they were. When his wife noticed increased tremulous and other withdrawal signs, he urged him to start treatment. See, that's terrifying. I think that's more terrifying than drinking on the job. It's like he was going through fucking withdrawal while doing these surgeries. Whew, damn. But yeah, I relate to that one a lot too. I relate to, the only one I don't really relate to is the last one, and you'll see why. Case vignette 5, better dead than humiliated. This one's rough. Mr. C is a 45-year-old unemployed architect who came to treatment following the loss of his fiancée, who succumbed to cancer. His savings had dwindled in the course of taking care of her until her last breath. I want to point out, it's like, oh no, like narcissists have no, empathy. They don't care about people. Well, clearly this guy cared about his wife. Maybe there's some that don't, but this guy did. His wealthy brother gave Mr. C an allowance and was paying his rent. Paralyzed by an agonizing fear of failure, Mr. C was procrastinating about his job search, spending months in aimless smoking, painting action figures, or in late night bar visits. Oh my God, I fucking relate. Because the thing is, it's so humiliating. Like the idea of that I might be rejected from a job, especially when I was rejected a couple times. Like, I just didn't want to pursue it, and I would rather, I just couldn't handle it. I just wanted basically to be like, I'm fucking above this work anyway. I'll just wait till a job that I deserve comes around. Avoidance preserved the illusion of superficiality and a secret triumph of his competitive wishes vis-a-vis his brother. Frustrated by Mr. C's stagnation, his brother made the allowance conditional on performing some work. Plagued by procrastination, Mr. C was unable to fulfill his work duties and became preoccupied with fears of losing his allowance, becoming homeless, and living on the street. He contemplated killing himself, hoping to avoid humiliation and defeat through suicide. Yes, the crisis would relieve when he became more accepting of himself and took a less demeaning job. And like, the first time I read this, my first thought was like, when he said the less demanding job, my first thought was pathetic. Which, you know, that's not healthy. But yeah, like when I was unemployed and like having money issues, that was literally because I was like overcome by the fears of losing my house, being like, this is the only thing I have to hang my hat on. If I lose this and I'm humiliated like that, possibly going on the street, I would rather die than have that sort of inclination. Like, I would legitimately, like, hands down, I would die before I lost this house, before I was reduced to something like that. At least there's like some honor in killing yourself. At least that shows that you're powerful. You're what's the word? You're powerful. You have. It's like suicide to me is like and nobody listen to this. This is super unhealthy thinking, but to me, suicide is like you're fighting against the only thing that at every point, like at our very core, our basic want is survival. And you're able to overcome that and kill yourself. I mean, I don't see a more impressive thing you could do. I used to think of myself as pathetic and a coward for not being able to do it. And it's interesting how I fucking have rationalized my suicidal ideation. And it's interesting because the idea of, oh, I could commit suicide might be a self-regulatory thing. It was noted in this paper that the idea of suicide can serve to like self-soothe. And that's what was happening when I was, might have lost my health. It was almost self-soothing that I had that out, that I wasn't going to be humiliated, that I was going to have my last triumph over the world. I went out on my own terms. Yeah. And the last one, I don't relate to this one like at all, by the way, but the other five, yes. Mr. D, an administrative assistant employed by his father in the family business, wanted the best for himself, the best job, the best romantic relationship, and the best car. Fluent in administrative language, he concocted a term for his position that made it sound unique and lucrative, though his performance was unreliable. And he maintained his job because of the good heart of his father. He dated a few women whom he wished to view as the perfect extension of himself, and he would typically dismiss them if they were just like by his family or if they disagreed with them. I understand like being able to just like dismiss a woman like very quickly, but that's kind of like, well, okay, this part I can't relate to. Cocaine proved to be more reliable in producing elation, a sense of well-being, and grandiose self-perception. Yep. Yeah, that's when like I drink to like try to, you know, quiet shit basically, not be so preoccupied with that stuff. Cocaine though, oh my God. It's like it's powdered self-esteem juice. I swear to God. I had a little bit of a habit with it back in the day because it was just, it was the sensation I've been seeking my entire life. That every day I am trying to find, which is probably bad. Through a series of ultimatums by his family, he was finally urged to come to treatment. He demanded the best room and the best treatment facility, the best therapist, whom he immediately requested to change, and offered to hire a personal psychiatrist for himself, whose salary he generously offered to pay. Quoting his desire for the best treatment, he continued to order his treatment team around, avoiding exploring his own problems, scared to focus on himself. He asked for an early discharge and dismissed the recommendation aftercare, only to be found intoxicated 48 hours later. Sad ending to that one. Jesus. But yeah, like, I don't really relate to most of that. I do relate to the, like, ordering the treatment team around and then just, like, leaving, basically, because that's what I did my first time in therapy. And I wouldn't say I ordered them around, but, like, I was just kind of playing with them and, like, saying, no, this is what's up, this is what's up, blah, blah, blah. And then I just left because I wasn't ready to, like, face that shit. Anyways, yeah, so these are some real people with MPD, and this like really illustrates the actual issues that come along with this disorder, the actual subjective suffering that make this a disorder. I mean, I guess the last one, maybe you could argue that he's not particularly miserable, but for most of these, you can see that there's severe impairment in their life and their happiness, and functioning, whatever. And as I always say, you can't, just because somebody is full of themselves doesn't mean that they have a mental condition. Sure, they can be narcissistic, in quotes. I usually don't try to use that word just because it's so conflated with NPD. But it's different. It's a lot different. You don't see somebody who's genuinely self-assured, genuinely confident, genuinely arrogant, be doing any of the behaviors I just read out. And hell, look at that, it's fucking sad. All of these had relatively, I guess the one before wasn't too bad, but all of them had kind of morbid endings to them. It's kind of a shame, but is what it is. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and crap. I don't care. And take your fucking meds.